Is Attack of the Clones good? We are officially 5 Star Wars movies deep into our complete analysis of the Star Wars franchise. So if you're not familiar with the process at this point, feel free to click the pop-up that's hovering around my head somewhere and get caught up. Otherwise, let's get to it. A few things from this crawl. What is the Separatist movement, and why are thousands of systems joining it? Also, who the frick is Count Dooku? They're throwing a lot of stuff at us right now and just expecting us to go with it, which I'm pretty sure, as I have said before, is a huge cinema sin. The movie itself starts with a bang, literally, and Padme picking up right where she left off with bad acting. I still cannot figure out for the life of me how Natalie Portman becomes an Academy Award-winning actress, but here we are.
No.
Everyone in this opening scene, for that matter, is pretty stale. Even Ian McDiarmid and Sam Jackson, who are usually much better, are just off and don't feel like they're even talking to each other in the scene. It's not a great start. The conversation between Anakin and Obi-Wan feels much more natural, though, and is an interesting one, as it's pretty clear that Anakin is infatuated with the idea of seeing Padme again, to which Obi-Wan just laughs and shrugs it off, which I'm pretty sure is a no-no in the Jedi Order, so it's kind of a weird thing for him to do there. Anakin comes in hot with some pickup lines and immediately gets friend-zoned.
And he'll always be that little boy I knew on Tatooine.
The following debrief scene with Anakin and Obi-Wan is actually pretty fantastic. Ewan McGregor does a great job of showing his frustration with Anakin, and this not being the first time that Anakin has done this, and everyone in the room does a great job of conveying the awkward feeling that you have when your aunt has to yell at her children for being awful creatures at the Thanksgiving dinner table. So yeah, a pretty good scene here. Anakin does not cease to be creepy and continues to hit on Padme. I feel like Obi-Wan should probably talk to him about that. Not just in a Jedi way, but just a don't be a freaking weirdo way. But he more glosses over that and hits more on the fact that she is a politician and that politicians are not to be trusted. And here we get our first subtle drops about why the Separatists might actually be separating. Yeah, because the Republic has become corrupt, something we already saw bits and pieces of in the first movie with the red tape and the bureaucracy and how Palpatine was able to manipulate it pretty easily. Shortly after, we get our first Jedi action as Obi-Wan yeets himself out of a skyscraper window after a droid. He gets lucky with the assassin being the worst assassin in the galaxy and somehow misses a floating target and hits the droid instead. Anakin then comes in to deliver some sarcastic, dry humor, which, if you haven't noticed, is my cup of tea.
What took us so long?
Oh, you know, Master. I couldn't find a speeder that I really liked.
There he is.
With the open cockpit and the right speed capabilities.
Anakin's reckless and overconfident nature is certainly noted in this scene. And it starts the movie off with a pretty sweet car chase, and the action is good. And that's something that we will say several times throughout this movie. The dialogue between Anakin and Obi-Wan continues to be good. Not all of it is great,
Go and find her.
Where are you going, Master?
but the scene where they are about to go into the bar in particular is a nice touch, as it's kind of a callback to the opening of Phantom Menace, where Qui-Gon gives Obi-Wan a little imparted wisdom in the moment, and Obi-Wan does the same thing for Anakin here as he's panicked and trying to rush into the club. Strong scenes between the two here. The bar itself is packed with Easter eggs, one of them being the bar itself. Obi-Wan tells Anakin he feels like he's going to be the death of him, and Obi-Wan slices off an arm, just like he did in A New Hope. Disappointingly, the bar itself is not filled with many non-humans. The ones that are done with classic Star Wars practical effects, and they look great. There is some CGI in the walls and stuff, but that's pretty minimal, so I'm okay with it. We are strangely missing any music, though. I feel like that is a big thing to overlook in the scene. And it's kind of weird, but the effects of it all look really good. The CGI of the changeling in the end of the scene, not so much. Hayden Christensen does not deserve any awards for his acting in this movie. But he also doesn't deserve the crucifixion that he has received. Something to keep in mind, like we noted in the first movie, the calm, cool, level-headed emotions of the Jedi are a feature, not a bug. It's not bad acting, that's who the Jedi are. And I think that Hayden Christensen actually does a pretty good job of breaking that calm, cool, collected thing whenever he has to. The delivery of the "tell us now" line here is pretty good, and the way Obi-Wan makes a note of it but like lets it slide is part of the problem between the two of them, I feel like. And it's well done that they don't beat you over the head with it, that Obi-Wan is probably being too permissive with some of the things he's doing. But I feel like the dynamic between the two of them are good here. Anakin's dialogue with the Council and Palpatine in the following scenes where they make a plan for the rest of the movie is also decently acted. Again, nothing Academy Award winning, but definitely not terrible either. As we enter Act 2 of the movie, we come to my biggest problem with it. The constant bouncing back and forth between Anakin and Obi-Wan's stories. As soon as I would get somewhat invested into one of them, it would rip me away to the other one for another 2 to 3 minutes before we cut back again. To spare you that cinematic whiplash, I'm going to cover the sections in their entirety separately. So I'm going to start with Obi-Wan, and then I'm going to go to Anakin, and we'll dissect them like that, just so you don't go insane like I was. Obi-Wan starts with some detective work tracking down these assassins, and he goes to an old friend who we've never heard or seen him before, so that's kind of weird. But the disappointing part about this scene is that it's pretty much entirely CGI. I had never really understood the CGI hate until I went into these with a super critical eye that I'm doing. The practical effects from the original trilogy and then the practical effects that you can just see in the prequels just look so much better, and it's still odd to me that they have this weird mix of it whenever the practical stuff just looks so much better. But anyway, the old friend points him in the right direction to a planet called Kamino, and he's on his way. He heads to the temple to get the precise location and can't find it. But we do get a fun callback scene with the blinder training helmets with Yoda, so that's fun. This movie is doing a good job of calling back to its roots. The CGI in the prequels has not been impressive, but the Kamino planet is pretty cool. The raging storm with the cool futuristic buildings, and the aliens themselves even look really cool, with their eyes being really, really cool in particular. Something about eyes in Star Wars, with Jabba the Hutt's eyes in the original trilogy, and these Kaminoans, something like that. The scenes themselves reveal a clone army created for the Republic by a Sifo Dyas, who we've never heard or seen before. We then get a better look at the clone troopers, who, as much as they tell you are impressive, are just not. The CGI does not look good, and I think that they could have done some real people in armor here, and that would have looked much cooler. We meet our first antagonist in person in Jango Fett, and the tension in the dialogue between Obi-Wan and Jango is really good here. The jump cuts within the jump cuts, though, are not great, and I was literally a little disoriented from the quick jumps that they do here. Obi-Wan is ordered to bring the bounty hunter in for questioning, and we get some sweet Jedi versus bounty hunter action, which is good because if you're watching the unHeath edited pacing of this movie, it's gone quite a while without any high points. And high point it is, because this fight scene between Obi-Wan and Jango is pretty sweet. This is basically the Boba Fett that we never got to see. The jetpack is awesome. I have my first, oh yeah, the Phantom Menace had incredible sound design reminder over hearing Jango's blasters. And Obi-Wan is a freaking tank. A couple bad spots of CGI hamper what is an otherwise great fight. One of the things that we don't see a lot in Star Wars are one-on-one Jedi versus non-Jedi fights, and this is the only one that I can think of at the moment, and it's pretty great. It's a pretty evenly matched fight, and it ends in a stalemate with Jango escaping in his sweet ship and Obi-Wan giving chase. He does so in his sweet hot rod red starfighter, and we get what I think is the most iconic sound in Star Wars other than the lightsaber in the seismic charge detonations. It's a really cool visual as they chase through the asteroid fields. However, it doesn't look great. For some reason, it seems like the CGI of the space battles in Episode 1 were better than what we're seeing in Episode 2 here, which is really weird to me. I don't know if I'm crazy. Tell me in the comments if I am. But the Phantom Menace just looks better to me in space. Jango gets the upper hand on Obi-Wan, but some quick thinking gets him away and follows Jango down to what suspiciously looks like a desert planet below. Obi-Wan safely lands and figures out why Padme was attacked at the beginning, because the Trade Federation viceroys are just that petty and wanted her dead as part of their deal for joining the Separatists. But we do learn that they are ready to join, and so are many other systems. Crap hits the fan for Obi-Wan, but he manages to get out a warning message to Anakin, who is not where he should be, and leave it to Jar Jar Binks to destroy the entire Republic from one line of manipulation from Palpatine. The dialogue between Dooku and Obi-Wan after he gets captured is probably the best exchange in the movie, actor-wise, which is not a surprise based on the actors that are in the scene. But there's a bit of truth in everything that Dooku says, in the fact that Qui-Gon might have joined the Separatists. He was always a bit of a wild card when it came to the Jedi Order, so I don't think it would have been too far of a stretch for him to abandon the Republic if he heard that there was a Sith Lord in control of it. Why Dooku tells him everything here, I don't know. Why Obi-Wan doesn't believe him, I also don't know. But it seems like a little bit of like a forced bit of conflict. If these two were both being rational, I feel like Obi-Wan might have actually heard him out here. But maybe Dooku was legitimately trying to save the Republic one last time, or maybe he was just trying to sway Obi-Wan to help him take down Sidious, and they would be the new rulers. I guess we'll never know. Switching gears about 30 minutes backwards, we revisit with Anakin and Padme. Padme is packing up for the trip, and she mentions that she opposes the creation of an army. So I don't know why she would think that Dooku, the leader of the Separatist movement, would try to assassinate her when she's one of the only ones that is voting not to create an army against them. That doesn't make any sense to me. Anakin responds by launching off on a tirade about Obi-Wan that she definitely did not ask to hear, and is obviously not interested in it.
That must be frustrating.
It's worse.
Her attempts to console him lead to him being a creep again, and she shuts that crap down real fast this time, and moves past the friend zone into the I'm not interested and you're creeping me out territory. Afterward, they push past that awkwardness and head off to Naboo. Literally the first place I would start looking for her if I was trying to assassinate her. This movie has been much lighter on the political side of things, and I think that's a bad thing. We're almost an hour into this movie at this point, and we still have little to no information on why we are on the brink of a galactic war. We get a little bit of it here in some scenes on Naboo, but nothing definitive, and it really just adds to the confusion because it seems like Padme does want the Separatists to be absorbed back in, but she opposes going to war with them to get it to happen. So still very confused on what the motives are for her and also why we're so close to galactic destruction. So they retreat into the countryside, into one of Padme's luxurious childhood lake houses, where she reminisces about younger, simpler times, something Anakin cannot relate to. So he responds with his infamous line.
I don't like sand.
Hot take time. I think this scene is good. Maybe great. It's not nearly as poorly acted as people like to make it out to be. I don't know why they do that. But the context of the scene is what makes it great. Again, Anakin cannot relate to Padme here. There is no fun, youthful side story for Anakin. He was a slave on a desert planet. So the first good thing that happened to him, in his view, is Padme and Obi-Wan coming to save him from Tatooine. Padme is Anakin's lake house. And to think that that isn't romantic, or that Padme wouldn't have understood what he was trying to say there, is completely off base. So let's put this into perspective. We have two overworked, stressed out, late teen, early 20 attractive people alone on a beautiful lakeside cottage with nothing but time, with history, and they're just there. And Anakin shoots his shot several times, and eventually it works out for him. Maybe a bit creepy, but it worked out. And more perspective, he's a late teens guy. I don't know how you think you were with the ladies when you were 18, 19, but probably not half as good as you remember. So the awkwardness of the shot shooting might be a little bit more accurate than we would like to admit, just like the kid Anakin was. But heck, I'm just proud of the guy for taking a shot. To all you young people watching out there, shoot your shot, man. Make your intentions known with the girl. Don't get stuck in the friend zone, and make your intentions known. That's all I'm saying, and you'll be much better off for it. Be more like Anakin Skywalker. Even though Padme shuts it down after a brief kiss, they still flirt the entire time they're there, and it's pretty obvious they have something together. But in the end, they decide to keep their work obligations above their own interests because it would be a secret, and that's something that they can't live with. I think these are some of Portman's best scenes, and they just get this whole thing gets a lot of unjustified hate, in my opinion. That night, Anakin has more nightmares and decides that he needs to go back to Tatooine. Tatooine. Are you freaking kidding me with Tatooine? Anyway, they need to go back to save his mom, and Padme says that she'll come along with him. There he finds Watto, who looks a little worse CGI-wise as well in this movie to me for some reason, and that leads him to the Lars family, who then tell Anakin that Shmi was abducted by Tusken Raiders, and against everyone's advice, Anakin goes off to find her anyway. When he does find her, he does so just in time for her to die in his arms, which is absolutely brutal. Man, Hayden Christensen's such a bad actor. He doesn't show his rage or lament during these situations at all. Just the worst actor. Worth noting that he did what 40 men could not to these Tusken Raiders alone. And also that Cliegg Lars might be the best actor in this movie. And with that, our two storylines sync back up as Anakin and Padme get Obi-Wan's message and disobey orders to go save him. We get this cool little factory conveyor belt scene, which I learned from the special features a long time ago was actually all ad-libbed, and the effects team added in everything in post, which is cool to me. It takes a lot of creativity, I think, to do that. So that was just a fun little side note. But it ends, as you might expect, two people invading a military complex to end. They get captured and end up in chains alongside Obi-Wan.
Good job.
With the two of them staring death in the face, their facade of not caring about each other fades away, and they fully embrace each other in their relationship. Outside of the couple of chase scenes, we haven't really had any of the classic Star Wars waste of time scenes, and this one definitely classifies. This whole Coliseum fight scene with the animals probably could have been cut, and the movie might have been better off for it. But I love it. I think it's great. I think animals and Star Wars go together, whether it's the Yeti or the Rancor. There's just a special place in my Star Wars heart for animals and fight scenes with them. So I think they're all really cool too. The weird little tiger cat thing and the big rhino. I love all of the animals in this whole scene. We see that Padme is actually kind of a beast, and Anakin uses the Force to control an animal, which is a cool new use of a Force power. Obi-Wan is basically just a joke, dealing with the large praying mantis the whole time, but that's funny. I enjoy watching that. Once things get a little out of hand for the Separatists, they call in the droids to finish the job, but it's a little too late as the Jedi reinforcements come in to save the day. If the rest of this movie was complete garbage, which I don't think it is, it's not great, but it's not garbage, I would think that this is a watchable movie just for this scene. The visual of a line of Jedi with ignited lightsabers charging a line of battle droids will forever be etched into my mind, and no one can tell me that this movie is not worth watching just based off this one scene. The battle that unfolds is largely uneventful, but fun to watch regardless, and is punctuated by a cool but uneventful death of another possible great villain in Jango Fett. As the outnumbered Jedi are all but defeated, the clone army shows up with Yoda to reinforce and tip the tides in the favor of the Republic. Side note that the aliens in the Jedi Circle all look really great with their practical effects, and I really want in the next set of Star Wars movies to have a non-human main character. No, Chewie doesn't count. He's got like 30 minutes of screen time through the entire original trilogy. I'm talking like the Luke Skywalker of the movie is a Twi'lek or a Nautolan, like Kit Fisto, who's low-key my favorite Jedi. Once the battle takes it outside the Coliseum, we get some really cool, just general CGI battle shots. Again, none of it really looks all that great, but this scene alongside the Jedi battle charge will forever be etched into my memory. Eventually, the droid army and Dooku are forced to retreat, and we get back to the plot after what was probably too long of watching stuff blow up. Anakin's faced with a dilemma of pursuing Dooku or going back for Padme, and ultimately decides that Padme would have left him to die there, so he should do the same. Yoda senses this tension, as he has done several times throughout the movie, but it's always been odd to me that Yoda doesn't ever address this with Anakin or Obi-Wan, just kind of lets it go. I don't know, maybe it's just everyone overlooking Anakin's problems because he's supposed to be the chosen one or something. Either way, it's odd that they note it, but don't call back to it. Then we approach the climactic battle. Obi-Wan attempts to coordinate a battle plan with Anakin, much like he and Qui-Gon did when attacking Darth Maul, but Anakin says, "Screw that noise, I'm going in." Obviously, Anakin gets nuked, and it falls to Obi-Wan, who has already admitted that he can't do this himself, and it ends badly. Anakin tries one last time after a weird CGI jump to take on Dooku with a flurry of dual-wielded lightsaber blows, which is pretty cool. That doesn't last too long, though, and we get this weird series of back-and-forth cuts between the two. And the fight ends anticlimactically with Anakin opening his arms and welcoming becoming an amputee. He does visibly wear Dooku out though, so that's kind of a cool little nod. Yoda arrives just in time to save the two of them from being murdered, and absolutely dominates Dooku in all aspects, absorbing his Force lightning and throwing away the debris, and then doing a whole bunch of pretty good-looking CGI compared to everything else we've seen, specifically that Anakin jump a few minutes ago. And the lightsaber flipping is really cool, and the battle cry is sweet, I think. I remember watching this in theater, and the whole theater was cheering at it. I've heard the opposite effect, though, as people were laughing at this scene, which I don't understand that at all. But I think it ends really, really cool when Yoda blocks a lightsaber blow and basically says, I'm gonna kill you now.
Fought well you have, my old Padawan.
Dooku craps his pants, rightfully so, and takes the coward's way out, and Yoda has to stop to save the two Jedi on the floor instead of finishing off Dooku. Dooku escapes back to Coruscant, of all places, to meet up with Sidious, and confirms that Jango Fett was not completely incompetent and was actually just precision planting evidence to lead a trail to Geonosis. The clone army is prepped, and Padme and Anakin get married, and, well, I'll let Yoda close this one out.
Begun. The Clone War has.
This movie is pretty clearly a step backwards from The Phantom Menace to me. My main gripe is that pacing of that middle section with the jump cuts between Anakin and Obi-Wan. If they could have cleaned those cuts up and just smoothed out those scenes, I think this movie would be a lot better, but they didn't, and it's not. It is a really great action movie, though. You can just put this on in the background when guests are over, and they'll recognize Ewan McGregor and Star Wars and explosions and lightsabers and have a good time. The acting, I think, is better than The Phantom Menace, though, and that would mainly be because we focus on an improved Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, who, again, I will say, is not nearly as bad as people like to make him out to be. The CGI isn't as good as the first movie for some reason, I felt like. Again, I could be crazy on that. But one thing that I know took a step backwards was the sound design. But sound design from Phantom Menace is like peak sound design of any movie, so that's hard to live up to. But just in general, this is a lower tier Star Wars movie. I have intentionally left any kind of ratings or rankings off of these reviews so far, and I did that with the goal of, once I watch all of them, I will probably do a tier-based ranking system, maybe assign some 1 out of 10 number system to them as well. But if you want to continue this ride with us and finish out the prequels and then do the sequel trilogy after that, and then the extras being Rogue One and Solo, yes, I know that's a lot of movies, but I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. If you liked this video, hit the like button, a dislike if you didn't, and in the comments, tell me what you think is psychologically wrong for me for liking the lake house scenes. So with that, I just want to thank you guys sincerely for watching, and until next time, I will catch you all later.